Well, I think we can both agree it's been kind of a crazy week, and I have some thoughts on the events of this last Saturday, but I don't want that to put any more of a hitch in our giddy up than necessary, so if you're interested in what those thoughts are, stick around to the end. In our series that we've been doing on which systems to establish in which order when you first get onto your off-grid homestead land, we've covered what you should definitely not do first. We've covered the importance of securing your property and the absolute necessity of fire safety. So what do you do next? Well, let's talk about it. This is a lifestyle that, with very few exceptions, anyone who wanted to could do. We're not special by any stretch of the imagination, aside from maybe being more stubborn and persistent than the average person. In fact, if I lived in Viking times, I'd be known as Yasin the Iron Skull. For good reason. This is the time where you consciously make the decision to start working on projects that play to your strengths, but also help you to augment your abilities to take care of your weaknesses. Our biggest and probably only strength when we first got out here was the 100% certainty that we knew we would persist. There was no going back for us. And having burned the ships, we couldn't even if we wanted to. Our biggest weakness? Well, I'd have to say that was probably that we had about $300 in our pockets when we arrived here and just under 30 days worth of canned food that we were going to sustain on, and those reserves were getting low. We needed an income. It's been my experience that when people imagine how they're going to support themselves through this off-grid living and homesteading adventure, the first thought is, well, I'm going to put a produce stand out at the front of my property. Duh. Or I'm going to grow microgreens and develop a route supplying these fresh nuggets of yumminess to the local restaurants and stores. Got it. Depending on that fantasy is a mistake. It's going to take you years and resources to establish those things, if ever. And what's probably worse is that there is already somebody in that small community who not only has established themselves as the go-to person for those things, but they also depend on the income that they make from having established it. And I will tell you, there is no discomfort like the discomfort that you will feel when the small community rumor mill gets together and finds out from old grandma, the tomato lady Eldred, that she hasn't been able to afford her arthritis medicine ever since the new folks moved in. The trick to this is to find out what the community is lacking and then figure out some way to produce that. When we first got out here, Carrie was looking through local Facebook groups, Craigslist, all of those sorts of things to do just that. And she came across an ad for a small rural school that was looking for a music teacher. Now, Carrie's an amazing musician, so she called him up and booked an appointment for an interview. She went out there, they hired her on the spot, but the funny thing was, as she was driving back, she got a call from another school that was actually a little bit closer to us, asking if she would like to work there as well. So after about a month of us being out here and making do with what we had, Carrie had about 3 days a week of music teaching, which also led to private lessons and working with the band for a local church and all of these other things that were generating income. But we had reduced our need for money by so much that it was covering all of the necessities, which was pretty awesome. The other cool thing was, it was really very cool for me to go into town, our tiny little town, and for people to recognize me as Mrs. Carey's husband. I got such a kick out of that. I'd tease her about it and stuff. It was pretty funny. She had the foresight to focus on finding something that the community was lacking and then becoming the go-to person for that. This strategy actually helped to make the community better, more complete. It solved a problem for the people near us and for us without causing a problem for anybody else. And as a result, when we were in need, that same community was there to help us through some of the roughest times that we'd experienced living this lifestyle. There are countless ways to make money living like this. And maybe someday I'll make a video on all the different things that we've tried over the years. But the point of this one is to tell you that all you really have to do is focus on doing something that makes your community better. Find a need, fill that need to the best of your ability, and you're going to do all right. As for my thoughts on what happened on Saturday, it happened. But since then, I've seen people speculating on why it happened or how it could have happened, blaming the other side, saying they were happy that it occurred, wishing for different outcomes, and honestly, The whole conversation around this event just made me sad, which is why I didn't post anything on Saturday and wanted to collect my thoughts on it before I said anything. I'm not really a political person, but I do know two things. First, if you wish harm on another person because they look, act, or think differently, then you have within you the capacity to be the absolute worst that humanity has to offer. And if I were you, I'd reflect on that. And second, if your life sucks, I can promise you it doesn't suck because of one political party or the other. It sucks because for decades, you, your parents, and theirs have been giving away the responsibility for your prosperity and happiness to the powers out there. The truth is, if you have problems with work and money and relationships and happiness or anything else, the one thing that's common to all of those things for you is you. And the only way for you to fix that is for you to realize that you have something to do with your situation and that you can, in fact, do something about it, becoming a little bit more independent from all the noise day by day, uncoupling your pursuit of happiness wagon from anybody else's pony. You do that the same way you sit down to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. And it's my genuine hope that these videos that we make help you to do that in some way. I'll catch you next time. I don't want to set the world on fire. Oh, I love you, Merlin. We needed an income. We'll make that better with the power of friendship and editing.